Everyone, we are going to talk about the topic Chinese EFL University Teachers' Perceptions of Cultural Teaching and Their Pedagogical Practice. It was proposed by Li Huacheng on 2023 December 30 and it is from Language and Intercultural Communication Journal. So this study is to investigate the beliefs of Chinese University EFL teachers regarding cultural teaching and their instructional practice in the classroom. So first of all, it's the background, which is the EFL educational context in China. This can be traced back to 1950. China started to have interest in cultural teaching and the cultural communication. But the development was very sporadic because of the political situation. Until 1980, Xu Guangdong published an influential article. Besides this, because of the expanding globalization, the government emphasized on cultural teaching and intercultural communication more, and this can be reflected in the Ministry of Education's national curriculum guidelines. Until now, the government aims to cultivate students' compound abilities, including intercultural communication awareness and competence, and their ability to understand and interpret and spread Chinese culture. It also gave the definition of the term intercultural communication competence ICC. So this is the definition of this. So in the 2020, the MOE highlights the importance of respecting cultural diversity, developing intercultural empathy, and mastering basic intercultural theories. So even though there is an explicit definition of this term, but there are no specific instructions in the guidelines to teach teachers how to include cultural elements and develop students' identity in teaching practice. Meanwhile, it also discusses about the belief about the culture and pedagogical practice. So the foreign language teachers' belief play a vital role in their behavior in the classroom. And there are some empirical studies that the teachers support incorporating culture into their teaching, but there are lack of knowledge of target cultures and cultural teaching strategies. And under the exam-oriented focus environment, there are lack of time to teach culture. And there are some other studies here. Okay. So even though we have discussed the different aspects about culture teaching, but we are lack of in-depth exploration of Chinese EFL teachers' belief about culture and their relationship to instructional practice in the classroom. So there are two research questions. The first one is, what are Chinese University EFL teachers' predominant conception of culture in the pedagogical context and in particular in EFL? And the second one is, to what extent, in what ways are these conceptions reflected in the way Chinese University EFL teachers incorporate culture in their classroom instructional practice? Okay. So this is the methodology. It is a qualitative study, and the participants are 38 Chinese EFL teachers at 3 higher-ranked universities in Shanghai, China. And then before the researchers spent 3 months building connection with participants. And the data connection method includes semi-structured interviews and non-participant classroom observations. And then the data analysis is interpretive analysis system, and the author identified the key themes or patterns through the conversation and categorize the informant's views of culture based on few frameworks, like Murray's 1983 distinction of Big C and Small C, Byron's 1997 the cultural competence model, including knowledge, skills, attitudes, and awareness, and the SFLL 2006 framework, which includes the products, practice, and perspective. So there are some definitions here. The product is both tangible and intangible cultural elements. The practice is the pattern of behavior and the use of language. The perspective are meaning, beliefs, attitudes, values, and ways of thinking. So based on the interview, the author talk about the teacher's perception of cultural teaching in an EFL context. The first one is their theoretical knowledge of culture. So in the past research, they found that the teacher lacked explicit knowledge of cultural theory, and because of their lack of training, so they can't really give a very intensive definition. And this situation can be seen also in the interview. And the second one is the cultural elements in EFL. Even though the teacher, they say that they are going to integrate a wide-ranging cultural elements in topics, but through the observation, we can find that they still put a lot of focus on products and practice, really on perspective. So, based on these three, I have listed some discussion from the paper, but since we don't have time, so you can check it in my PPT. And then it's the role of cultural teaching. So the past study declared that cultural learning was necessary and important in EFL teaching. And the role of culture in language classes is perceived to depend on course nature, students' language competence, and teachers' cultural awareness. And then I want to mention about the teaching cultural knowledge and the teaching cultural awareness, because these two are very different. And the first one is the teaching cultural knowledge. The teacher said that it is more simple compared to teaching cultural awareness because it is based on the textbook, and it is to provide students with factual information about other cultures. But about the teaching cultural awareness, it is to develop students' understanding of cultural differences, fostering tolerance and sensitivity. And then there are three main techniques used in classroom. The first one is introduction of cultural background information, and that is what many teachers adopt this approach to draw out cultural information. And because it is based on textbook or related to teachers' interests, so the teacher will use different activities to introduce about this. And the second one is the cultural comparison and contrast, which means that the teacher compare the different culture to our own culture. And the third one is students' project. It shows the students' engagement in class. And then there are some classroom activities like oral presentation, discussion, debates, or role play. So this is the conclusion. So the cultural teaching in Chinese EFL content is far from satisfactory, and the teacher lacks explicit theoretical knowledge of culture. And in the most of the time, cultural teaching is treated as secondary to language instruction, and it is more like a lesson enhancer to gain students' attention. And then the teacher belief is related to their classroom behavior, and through the observation, the teacher put more focus on the products, practice, and less in perspective. And then the teacher like their lack of pedagogical skill to deal with cultural perspective and to develop appropriate cultural teaching plans. So they have to base on the textbook or their personal experience. So this is my critique. I think it is beneficial to use different frameworks to analyze the data, but the observation time is too short to provide a more holistic understanding of this practice and how they integrate the cultural elements into their teaching. And then I think the author could also analyze the teaching materials because it was chosen by teacher, right? So it is also related to teacher's conception. And then I think that even though this paper identifies the challenge, but it could provide more concrete recommendations or strategies for addressing these issues in culture teaching. And then this is my suggestion in real application. I think the education authorities could hold workshops to enhance teachers' knowledge of cultural teaching. And then since we share the similar EFL background with China, our advantage is that we have more freedom to choose topics and teaching materials. So the teacher may want to share more culturally relevant news and or provide some different resources for students to explore this cultural information by their own self. And then I think the teacher could also invite the different people from different culture to give speeches, so it can provide students with more opportunity to learn about different cultures. So this is all of my presentation. Thank you.